Good day to Doctor and my fellow friends. We are from Group 5. Today we are going to present a comparison of public administration system in Canada, Australia. My name is Jiang Wei Jing. My mention number is 279108 and now I will introduce my other group members. The first one is Cham Kang Weng. The mention number is 281194 and the following is Zahira Bintintin. The mention number is 279295 and Noor Nafisha Shahzawani binti Rosmini. The mention number is 277801. And the last member is the Noor Ain binti Adib. The mention number is 279275. Now I will continue with the background of the both countries. From the political side, Canada is a federal parliamentary democracy within a constitutional monarchy country. Meanwhile, Australia is a country using a mixture of representative democracy and a constitutional monarchy. Australia is also a federal state. Next is the economy. According to the World Population Review, Canada and Australia are considered to the developed countries. The developed country is referred to the Human Development Index, as we call HDI. The HDI scale runs from 0, lowest development, and to 1, we consider as the higher development. The country with score ranging from 1 until 0.8 are considered as developed. Therefore, we can see that the Canada HDI score is 0.936 and while the Australia is 0.951. Not only that, Canada and Australia are also defined as first world country. A developed and industrial country is defined as a first world country by political and economic stability, the most advanced technology, a capitalist economy, and a high quality of life. The third is by the demography side. Both countries have aggressive youth immigration to foster a rise in demography and economic development. For example, immigrants currently account for around 1/6 of Canada's population. Now I'll continue with the international associations. For example, like OECD, the OECD is referred to the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development. It is a global organization that advocates economic freedom and policy cooperation among the developed countries. For example, like Canada and Australia is one of the 20 founding members of the OECD. The second thing is the Commonwealth. The Commonwealth is an association of 56 countries that work together to achieve common goals of prosperity, democracy, and peace. For example, the Statute of Westminster established in 1931, and Australia and Canada and Ireland were given sovereign sovereignty. In 1931, the Canada became an independent member of the British Commonwealth. And next, in 1926, Australia became an independent member of the British Commonwealth. The divisions between the three fundamental branches of government, which is the legislative, executive, and judicial, is the foundation of the separation of powers in the country. In Canada, executive and legislative branches are intimately linked compared to other countries, where the three branches are separated through the checks and balances. The executive branch is primarily led by the legislative assembly's member elected to the cabinet, who then make the significant decisions on how the provincial government is operated. On the other hand, the judicial branch is independent of executive and legislative interference. In Canada, the legislative branch of government, known as the Parliament, comprise the monarchy represented by the Governor-General, the elected House of Commons, and the Senate. The House of Commons is a representative body, which means the House of Commons members who has been selected are in charge of serving in this representative parliament. According to the Canadian Constitution, the Senate comprises 105 senators elected by the provinces and the territories. The Governor-General can appoint the senators. A bill must first be introduced in the Senate or the House of Commons before it becomes a law. All bills go through a debate, reviews, and the voting process. Next is the executive branch. The authority of the executive branch of government in Canada is placed in the King or Queens and exercised by the Governor in Council, which is the Prime Minister and the Cabinet. The Prime Minister is the head of government, which determines the direction of the government agenda, leads policy development, and the selects cabinet member. The cabinet is in charge of establishing and developing all the administrative policy to govern the country and managing the federal government's departments. The executive branch can implement legislature, establish law, and spend the public funds. The government can propose bills that become the law when passed by the legislative branch. The judicial branch in Canada is administered by the federal, provincial, and territorial governments. The Federal Judge Act and the Constitution Act of 1867 provide the appointment, retirement, removal, and the compensations of the federally appointed judge. In Canada, the judicial independence is referred to as the judiciary branch, which has been required to be perceived as independent of the other government departments, and it is guaranteed by the Constitution Act 1867. Australia is a country using a mixture of representative democracy and constitutional monarchy. Besides that, Australia shares the monarchy with the United Kingdom and the former British Empire country despite being independent. Like Canada, the separation of power in the federal government structure is incomplete. The legislative branch of government in Australia is comprised of the Queens, represented by the Governor-General, and the House of Representatives and the Senate. The House of Representatives is often referred to the lower house, meanwhile the Senate is often referred to as the upper house. The House of the Speaker is the highest honor bestowed by the House of Representatives on one of its members. It is in charge in presiding of the House chamber discussions, enforcing the House's adopt standing rules, and ensure it runs smoothly. It takes over the government communications and it roles as the forums for the public policy debate. Only the Parliament may enact the laws, which has then dedicated to the executive government to develop the regulations and the rules about the specific law. According to the Constitution, the Queen possesses executive power over the Commonwealth and territories, exercised by the Governor-General as the monarchy representative. The Prime Minister and the other cabinet members make the administrative policy decisions and governs the government departments and the services. Next is the judicial branch. The judicial branch of the government in Australia is separate from the other government branches based on the country constitutions. The terms and the compensation guaranteed in the constitutions contribute to the judicial independence. In Australia, the technical security for judges is regarded as a crucial component of an independent judiciary, since they cannot be affected in their decisions and choices by the voters, the executive, and the parliament.
The social economy movement has grown significantly in importance in Quebec's socio-economic development over the past 10 years. Due to its emphasis on entrepreneurial collective, the social economy has led significant initiatives that have created thousands of new jobs. It also responds to environmental needs as well as social and cultural needs in society. With the launch of its social economy project in 2003, the Canadian government joined the ranks of other national, regional, and local governments that have started to recognize the crucial role that citizen-based activity can play in socio-economic development and societal well-being. With a focus on the social economy, a new parliamentary secretary to the Minister of Social Development was appointed. Wide-ranging partners have been enlisted to carry out the initiative, which was horizontally conceived Social Development Canada, Industry Canada, Western Economic Diversification, the Federal Economic Development Initiative in Northern Ontario, Atlantic Canada Opportunities Agency, Canada Economic Development Quebec, and the Social Sciences and Humanities Research Council.
Next, I will present about socio-economic in Australia. In general, socio-economic status means a person's or a group's relative to the economic and social well-being. The economic status in Australia is determined by their financial resource, educational attainment, and employment history. The socio-economic in Australia is poor or lower socio-economic status. According to the Health Tracker 2021, almost 5 million have lower socio-economic status in Australia. So the report Health Tracker is to track progress to improve the health in Australian and to achieving target help Australian by 2025. So, based on the health tracker, is to track and to see the progress, and that can be improved and achieving target among Australian about socio-economic status by 2025. This is because according to the Australian Health Tracker 2021, that showing that who have lower socio-economic status is can get the mental illness and premature babies, and also can get the chronic disease like cardiovascular and diabetes.
Alright, so next I would like to present about the system of administrations in Canada. So Canada is a country that practices a federal parliamentary democracy in a constitutional monarchy system. They are consist of the federal government and 10 provinces government and 3 territorial governments and the municipal government we call it as a local government. And the head of the state is the King Charles III, who is also the head of the state for the 15 other Commonwealth country. So, with that, his magistrates representatives is named by governors generals of Canada, who carry out the royal functions or duty in Canada. So, the head of the governments we call it as a Prime Minister of Canada. And this position, they do not have to fix them as long as he receive or they get the majority support in the House of Representatives. So indirectly, the Prime Minister is also the member of the House of Representatives. So for the next is the federal or national governments. The Prime Minister plays the roles of the head of the federal government, and the federal governments actually they are plays the roles in overall responsibility for the Canada, and they have to ensure all the issue that faced by the country have to solve it, right? And the Prime Minister actually will assist by the minister, or we call it as a cabinet. So cabinet actually this is from the House of Representatives or the Senate. After that, we have the clerks of the previous council is a professional head of the governance public service, and also a senior civil servant in the cabinet government and serve as a secretary to the cabinet. So they are same like Ketua Setiausaha Negara Malaysia. So the roles of the clerks will be served Survivor's Prime Minister, and he is not involved in any political party because they are from the public servants. In addition, the minister is the head of the ministry and will be exceeded by the deputy minister, and the deputy minister is a senior civil servant in a government organizations, and the deputy minister is responsible for day-to-day operations, budgeting, or program development of the ministry. Deputy minister do not belong to any political party because they are also from the public servant, from the public sector. They are not involved to any political party. And one's position there is an associate deputy minister. This position actually is waiting to appointed as a deputy ministry. Right, so for the next is a provincial and a territorial governments. So in Canada, there are 10 provinces and 3 territories that are subnational administrative divisions under the authority given by the Canadian constitutions. Their responsibility in education, healthcare, social welfare, transportation, and the infrastructure. And the premiers is the head of the government. And the secretaries will be hands over to senior civil servants called the cabinet secretary or names as executives council clerk. So for the provincial governments, the leader of the party that have won and they are get the majority from the house will be appointed as the premiers, and the territorial governments is handled by the commissioners appointed by the federal governments, and the political organizations of each territorial government is different. For example, the Northwest Territories and the New Wales practice the consensus governments, which means that this is no political party element there. For another hand, the territorial government in Yukon is a practice a party system. That means they have the party. Right. So next is municipal governments. The municipal governments is a local council authority that plays a role in providing the public service, community facility, local infrastructure, and the security to the community. So in this level governments, they are limit power, and they are led by the provinces. And in a large country, they will have municipal police tasked with the protecting the city, and they will also to make some minor law to maintain the peace of the security of the city. So the mayor is a head of the government in this level, and the municipal councillor is a legal system body, and they are direct elected by the people. So for the next is the public administrations issue in Canada. So there are in general there are two issues. The first one is a cultural concern. The culture in public sector will usually be conducted according to the long standard norm. The matter is usually viewed with the feeling that the thing is normal and as will happen. Actually, there is a good because it is a province that the civil servants and the citizens fully understand what is expected from them. But actually, there will be happen issue, which is the culture have also to make issue of make the issue that to make the work less efficient as possible, and the incident have made a reform process in the Canada public administration difficult. So for another issue is employee morals. So the civil servants need to be give the reasonable motivation and the power so that they will be more committed in contributing to the public sector. So the low moral will make the public servants to feel they are not very important to the departments. And for example, one of the policy named by the SSC, Share Service Canada, that aim to develop the standard and the secure IT service to the Canadian government departments. One of the project in this policy, which is the Canadian government's email, is an issue that to prove that how or to show that how the lacks of the moral among the public servants throw down or to make the government project fails.
System of administration in Australia. So Australia is also a federal parliamentary in a constitutional monarchy system, which the head of the Australia is the king, which now is King Charles III, and the head of the government is the prime minister. The king may be the head of Australia, but his power delegated to Governor General by the Constitution. Governor General will act only on the advice of the elected government. To conclude, Australia consists of federal government, 6 states, 2 territory, and also local government. For the federal government, Prime Minister is the head of the government and he is the most powerful person in Australia. Prime Minister is a member of House of Representatives and leads the parliamentary party or coalition of parties with the support of majority of the members in the House. How Australians choose the Prime Minister? There will be a vote of members of the government, and the unique system is that the Prime Minister has no maximum period of service. As long as he has the support, he can always keep the job. The role of the Prime Minister is to solve the national issues, assisted by the ministers, which are also the cabinet members. The ministers will also be assisted by the Secretary of Cabinet, which is the senior member of Australian Public Service, and also by the Deputy Minister. Deputy Minister are the person who are appointed by the Governor General. So next is state and territory government. Australia has 6 states and 2 territories. As for the state, Premier is the head of the government. Premier is the member of the lower house of the state legislature who can earn a simple majority of votes on the house floor. Each state will have their own government. And for the 2 territories, which are Australian Capital Territory and Northern Territory, Chief Minister will be the head of the government. Chief Minister is the leader of a party having the most representative in a unicameral Australian Capital Territory Legislative Assembly. The local government, there are more than 500 local government bodies across Australia. Mayor is the head of the local government and are elected by the people. The state or territorial government defines the responsibilities and authorities of local government. Since the state government establishes shires and determine what responsibilities the local government will have, they must approve those legislation. So basically, local government will make decision about where new local roads and structures should go, as well as which natural areas and historic sites should be protected. Talking about the issues, what is the issues of public administration in Australia? So the main issues is risk-averse culture. Avoiding taking risks because of uncertainty is a famous tendency in public sector. Low risk means more stability. Public servants scared to take any risk, and that has caused inadequate management, and also the innovation has been stifled. In the higher levels, leaders are primarily individuals who avoid taking risks. It is due to apprehension about media scrutiny and the prospect of endangering the administration. As the result, silo mentality will exist. Civil servants do not want to share information or knowledge with each other, and that will cause a lack of information, and the developing of organization will become weak.
Next, I will present about the comparison Prime Minister between Canada and Australia. In Canada, Prime Minister has a lot of power and sometimes gets out of hand because he doesn't give cabinet members to make their own decision. In Canada, accountable government means that the executive is responsible to the House of Commons, which is the lower house of parliament. This house must still trust the Prime Minister and his or her cabinet for them to stay at the office. This helps maintain Canadian democracy because the executive is still under the jurisdiction of the elected house. The house ensures the Prime Minister serves the people and doesn't abuse his power. Now that the Prime Minister has more power to manage House of Representatives, the session is hard for the House of Representatives to receive. But in Australia, Prime Minister leads the government. The Prime Minister presides over the cabinet, which consists of the most senior minister. The cabinet makes policy and legislative decision. The Prime Minister appoints minister. The Governor General appoints as Minister of State the leader of the party, supported by the most of House Representative member. For example, each week during question time, the Prime Minister addressed the House of Commons to announce major policy shifts, introduce key legislation, and answer questions from members. The Prime Minister also leads the House of non-political subjects such as resolution thanking volunteers during a major disaster of recognizing national milestones like the 50th anniversary of the Yirgala Bug Petition.
The clerk of the Privy Council is the provincial law official in Canada. Additionally, he serves as the Privy Council's Deputy Minister. Senior government employees who work in the cabinet as clerk act as secretaries to the cabinet. However, the cabinet secretary in Australia works with the Minister of Agriculture and Water Resources to implement the agricultural sustainable portfolio. By releasing a portfolio of investments in the development of the arts, he also helped the Minister of Communications in the Department of Arts and Communications. A minister and a secretary are in charge of the 20 major departments. Senior Australian civil service employees serve as cabinet secretaries. The man is not in politics. His responsibility is to support the cabinet and the Prime Minister in putting cabinet-related policies into action. The minister who oversees a ministry in Canada is supported by the Deputy Minister. Senior employees of government agencies make up the Deputy Minister. The Deputy Minister does not belong to any political organizations. He oversees the ministry's department. A change in the ruling party has the power to abolish the position of Deputy Minister. In a ministry, there is also the position of Associate Deputy Minister. The Deputy Minister will receive assistance from an additional Deputy Minister. The Deputy Prime Minister in Australia will be chosen by the Governor General. Each minister has a Deputy Minister with whom they will collaborate to fulfill their duties. If the Prime Minister is absent, the Deputy Minister will be responsible for carrying out a lot of their duties. However, there is no waiting list to become a Deputy Minister in Australia.
In a nutshell, Canada is a federal parliamentary democracy within a constitutional monarchy. Meanwhile, Australia is used a mixture of representative democracy and constitutional monarchy. Other than that, the public administration in our country refers to the formal structure under which public institutions serve a government, principally in the public interest. For instance, the public administration system in Canada and Australia has solved as well. But there is some issue that exists in Canada public administrations, such as the culture and society, and the employee model due to the politicist dynamics and the insolent hierarchy structure. Therefore, the dependability and the reliability of governance institutions are essential. That's all for our group. Thank you.